Thank you for joining me for the first live Q&A of 2021. I hope everyone had a wonderful holiday. I took some much needed time off, though I didn't actually go anywhere, so just gave myself permission to be kind of lazy around my own house, which was as fun as it could be during this time of year. But welcome everybody. If you're new to my channel, my name is Katherine Lawrence. I am a certified professional organizer. I'm also a certified KonMari consultant, and I have been in business home organizing since 2002. So been around around the block a few times. I've probably worked on thousands of projects, and I've worked on my own. I've had a larger company and employed organizers, and I've actually always been training organizers. I was doing more training locally, and now I guess it's been almost 3 years now that I decided to take my courses and coaching and all of that online. So instead of just working in my local community, training and mentoring organizers, I'm now doing that with people all over the world. So it's pretty exciting. Um, so welcome. If you're new to my channel, I've been posting quite a few videos about mainly decluttering, minimalism, downsizing, and what it is like to work as a professional organizer. And so our Q&A today is about that, about working as an organizer and the sticky situations that we get ourselves into. Yes, hi, Happy New Year. Um, and so when you guys join, please feel free to post your comments, questions, I should say, in the comments. I'd love to know where you're from, if you're in the US or outside of the US, and also where you are in your journey. Have you taken your first client yet? Are you just thinking right now of becoming a professional organizer? Let me know kind of what you are, kind of where you are in that journey, and I hope we have lots to talk about. Yes, North Carolina. Hey, yes. Hi, Brittany. Hawaii. Oh gosh, that is on my bucket list of places to go for sure is Hawaii. Let me pull up my video here on my channel so I can catch all of your comments. So, the way this works is I've already gotten a couple of, oh, hey, Alicia. Oh, we have a couple of people from North Carolina today. The way this works, I already have a couple of questions that have come in over the last couple of weeks. So I'll answer some of those questions, but I hope that we have plenty of time as well to answer questions that come in through your chat. So I'll kind of talk for a little bit, but what I really enjoy doing is interacting with you guys and answering those questions that come in. So let me pull this up on my computer so I can see you guys and oops, what we're talking about. So yeah, and today I wanted to talk a little bit about branding and content management, because one of the questions that I've been getting a lot, and it certainly makes sense, is what can I do right now? There is a pandemic, it is winter time, I'm stuck in my house. How could I possibly build my business? What could I do? So I want to talk to you guys today about those things that we can do at home in building our brand. And, we're in January right now, so, sometimes it can take like 3 months to really build your brand online. So if you're just getting started, you can think about, okay, I want to be prepared for spring cleaning time. Like, I want people in my community to know who I am. I want to be very visible on social media and have kind of my whole brand defined and fleshed out before spring cleaning. So if you're just getting into the business, that's kind of a deadline I would set for myself personally if I was just starting out, that when the weather gets warmer and hopefully some other chaos has settled down, that you're prepared for that spring cleaning schedule, because that tends to be For me, that's a big time for me to start with garages and doing some of those other areas that I really can't get to right now because I live in Virginia and we are definitely in winter and I don't want to be outside too much. Um, hey, Sherry from Albuquerque, nice and warm, probably where you are. Yeah. So quickly, New York. Hi. Awesome. Thank you guys for joining me. And anytime during, I'll probably be on here about an hour. I like to stay on longer if I get a lot of questions. It looks like we're getting a good group going today. So awesome. Toronto, New Jersey. Cool. So I'm happy to stay on and answer questions. Um, Pretty much as long as you're coming in, as long as my dogs don't like, sometimes they tear down the house in order to get they want to go on their walk, but we'll have at least an hour together today. And you can also watch the replay. I'm going to keep the replay up. So if you do need to pop out and I haven't gotten to your question yet, just come back to my channel and you'll be able to find your answers there. So yeah, let's go ahead and get started. Um, so yeah, that big question of what can I do right now with COVID? So what I would really recommend you guys doing are a couple of things that can really build your brand without leaving the house at all. And one of them is getting your social media really like set up for success, which leads to another question of what should you be posting on social media? Because with Instagram and Facebook, I often get questions like, what should I be posting? Should I just be, kind of sharing articles on Facebook, which you could certainly do that. Um, but a couple of my favorite types of posts and something that's really going to help showcase your brand to your local market would be pictures of your favorite project. And that could be something that you've done in someone else's home, or it can just be a photo that someone else has done, that you find on Pinterest or on Instagram, as long as you credit them. So I've done this on my account before. If there's just like a really cool build out or something that's been staged really nice, I'm like, oh yeah, I like doing projects like that. Um, I might not have really good pictures of something that I've done, but I'm happy to credit that other person and share their information and say, hey, I really like the way this bookcase is set up or this kitchen is organized. So you can still build your brand by collecting those images from other people. That's fine as long as you give them credit. You could certainly post pictures of your own home in about, I don't know, maybe 3 to 6 months. I'm actually going to be redoing some closets in my own house. And so those will become content. I'm going to be putting in new closet systems. And so I will be photographing that, and that will become content on my probably Instagram and a little bit of YouTube, but I'll put them up on my blog. On your Instagram too, as people are getting to know you, it's always good to just put a picture of yourself and say, hey, I'm an organizer here locally, this is what I do. And also make sure you guys are using a hashtag that's recognized for your local community. So I live in Richmond, Virginia, so I would say, RVA or something that I could find some local contacts. Because when we put things out on Instagram or Facebook, that's public for the world. So, that's great if we get a ton of followers, but really what we're trying to do are get leads for our home services. So just keep that in mind and make sure you're tagging, putting in some local tags so that people know, where you are available to work. Favorite products, those always make for fun posts. If there is a product that you love and that you use all the time in your own home or plan to use with your clients, you could do a post about that. Inspirational photos and quotes. That always can kind of motivate people and also kind of give them an idea of what your brand is about. So if you are going to be working with hoarders or people with extreme clutter, you can have some motivational quotes about, the power of decluttering. If you're going to be working with people in time management and productivity, you can put in some quotes about just sort of living your ideal life and what you would do with more time, or how you should be using your time. So those are just a couple of ideas of ways that you can create content on Instagram or Facebook or whichever social platform you're using. And the other thing that I wanted to say about it is, like, sometimes people ask me about blogging and should I start blogging as a new organizer? And I say if you're really passionate and called to blogging, absolutely do that. Um, but if you just want to get a little bit of your message out there, Instagram slash also putting on Facebook is a really good place to just have like a mini blog without having that pressure of, putting out a 1,000 word post every month or something, that you can just start to get a little bit of content out there so people understand your brand and, kind of what you are about. So definitely something that you can do from home with COVID raging and what other, issues are going on and around the world. That is something you absolutely can take control of now, is to showcase your brand on social media. And so those are some ideas of post that that you can sorry, I'm just looking at the comments. Awesome. Yeah, whenever you come in, guys, just go ahead and post your questions in the comments. I've got one or two questions that I wanted to answer that have already come in over the last few weeks, and then we'll answer questions from the comments. So another thing we can do at home with, COVID and all of these other things, one way that I built my business and that I would recommend, as a way for you guys to also build your business, is through networking with your local community. So this could be anything from, having a cup of coffee with a related business like a stager, a closet designer, interior designer, hauling, company, moving company, that type of thing. But did you know there are also clubs, networking clubs, and networking groups that can also become either leads for you directly, or that those people can become a referral source for you. So a lot of these right now are still meeting virtually. The business model for many of them is to meet in person, weekly or monthly. So, things are a little kooky with that right now, but you can still connect with people. So, if you haven't, like, one of them that seems to be in most of the markets of where I'm coaching people is BNI, Business, I think it's Business Networking International. That was a networking group I was in for a couple of years when I started my business, and I worked with lots of people in the group, and it was also a consistent place of leads from people in the group, because they get together for the intention of passing business. Another one, and I think this must be national. I was looking at it because I think it's in my market, but it's called NAWBO, NAWBO. You may want to check to see if they are active in your area, if you're a woman, of course. National Association of Women Business Owners. So that's a national one. You may want to look into your Chamber of Commerce. That's a good way to connect with other small business owners or entrepreneurs in your group. So really, and there are lots of Facebook groups that are really motivational and can kind of help you with accountability. But I would make sure that you connect with people locally if you are looking for clients to meet with face to face. You really want to have some local connection. So as I said, a lot of these are still meeting online. Another place you can check out right now, if you're in the US, NAPO, the National Association of Productivity and Organizing Consultants, they have chapters around the country. And during COVID, I've seen quite a few chapters do free virtual meetings. So even if you're not a member of NAPO or of the local chapter, they're still doing some virtual meetings. So that's also, a great way to connect in your community. So try to find some networking group, even though they are probably not meeting face to face. They could be in the future, and you can still connect with people in that way. Another question that came in, or a question I get pretty frequently, is about insurance and how to insure your business. I 100% recommend that you do insure your business, at least like a general liability for your business to mitigate the risk of, any damage that you may do when going into people's homes. And I often get asked, like, how do I find an insurance agent? These networking groups, the BNI and the NAWBO and the Chamber and, any of those local groups, it's actually a really good way to find resources to help you start your business. Um, I love SCORE, score.org. You can check out to get a business mentor. Right now they're doing, of course, things virtually. So if you don't get a mentor in your community who can answer some of those questions, you can always turn to your networking groups. So it's nice to have that just extra support in your community. I think in any business, it's nice to have people that you can connect with and that can. Oh, I lost my YouTube. Uh, I know you guys are still there, but I lost my screen. I'll pull it back up. But yeah, just having that local support. So even if you're going to meet virtually with those communities, I would go ahead and start connecting with people now. And that's also a great way to find, your CPA, your attorney, your insurance agent. Through those local networks, you can get some contacts and talk to people about what they're doing as well. Awesome. Well, thank you guys for joining. I see Alabama. Sunny in Hawaii. Don't make me jealous. It's probably about 40 degrees where I am, but it's kind of cold and it's just sort of generally yucky. I'm definitely a summertime person, so I'm kind of hiding out this winter at home. Yeah, so what I'm gonna do is I'll go to the comments because I see a couple of questions coming in. So let me scroll up here. Looks like some of you guys are just in the formation, creating a business plan. Yeah, trying to get started. I just want to do more organizing, lots of decluttering. Want to do it this year. Yep. Yeah, and one thing that we're doing for our clients is, and this is sometimes I have organizers say, I just feel like I'm not really doing anything. I'm kind of showing up at their house and, maybe they're kind of distracted by this and this. But one thing we do as organizers is we kind of give our clients, especially if you're working with clients with ADHD, we're kind of that grounding force and that accountability partner for our clients. I like to think that a lot of my clients do have the right answers, that they know, what they need to do to become better organized or how they would declutter. But they kind of need someone else there to sort of to pull it out of them. And through consulting with your clients and having those organizing sessions, you're going to be that force with them that keeps them structured and on task. Awesome. Yeah, a lot of you guys are just starting your organizing business. Congratulations. Yeah, so growing your business in the pandemic. It's not even that different, I would say, than not during a pandemic. I think the difference for me right now with marketing is that if this was not COVID time, I would absolutely be having way more like coffee meetings and connecting with people in my community and connecting with potential referral sources. And I'll also tell you a wonderful, wonderful way to grow your business is through local, workshops and giving sort of speeches or lectures in your community. So obviously that's really changed right now because I'm not doing anything live. Anything that I have planned this year right now is virtual as far as speaking to groups. So it is still possible to have those virtual meetings. If you are just getting started, what I would focus on is go ahead and develop some type of mini lecture. You know, it could be a full workshop, it could be a 20-minute like tips or Q&A type thing, but have something prepared to present to your local groups. So if you don't have anything right now in the form of just some type of content that if the phone rang tomorrow and someone said, hey, I want you to speak to a group of local entrepreneurs or a group of moms about decluttering their home, are you ready right now to present that material? Because that can be a fantastic source of finding clients, and it also builds your authority and credibility. Because so much of working as a professional organizer, and I know you guys talk about that imposter syndrome, and I don't know if I could do this, and who's going to listen to me. So much of this business is building your credibility. So putting out original content, in the form of blogs or posts on social media, and speaking to local associations about, decluttering tips or productivity tips, that is going to build your credibility. So if you are starting out right now and you don't already have like a tip sheet or a workshop or something original that you've come up with, even if it's just a simple thing like, 5 ways to tidy your home office, or 5 ways to set up a virtual learning center, for kids, for students, something. You need to build your credibility in some way. You'll certainly do that through training, but creating your own content is an amazing way to do that. So if you're sitting around, with some extra time in your hands trying to figure out how you could get some recognition and clients for your business, definitely think about creating that content and then who you can present that to later in the year. Okay, Alicia says, I have a client that gets distracted easily with decision making, and I'm having trouble redirecting her focus. I don't want to seem bossy or throw her off her process. So, one thing I'm wondering if she actually has an attention deficit issue, because that is very, very it's kind of a known issue amongst people who are disorganized. So obviously it's not something we as organizers can diagnose. Usually my clients will volunteer that information. I mean, sometimes on the first phone call they'll just say, I have a hard time focusing, and if it's not that, it could also just be that they are completely overwhelmed and they're really busy and they just kind of want the organizer to step in and, wave their magic wand, which we can do a little bit to some extent, but obviously you need your client to get involved because you are creating a system based on their needs and how they function. And if they will not participate in that, it can be really frustrating, and it's not necessarily a good use of your time or their money. So and I know, Alicia, you've gone through my training, so you're probably familiar with what I call the GDP method, which is what I do in with my organizing projects. I go in, I gather and sort like categories, then I bring the client through a decision making process, and then I do the put away. So I would make sure that you're following that system, because that means that there's only a specific time during the organizing session that you're really asking the client to make decisions. So if you have a 3-hour session, you're not asking them questions for 3 hours. You're going to go in, you're going to do some sorting. Sometimes I make piles like, this is recommended trash. I recommend that you donate this thing because you have, too many of them. So I can work independently initially through the sorting process to and then walk them through that decision making. So I would follow that, and just, so there's that time in the middle of your session, instead of asking her. You just don't want to ask someone questions for 3 hours, because they may wander off or get decision fatigue. So I would try that. Okay, here's another little technique I use with people who just like will not focus, and they're on their phone, and they're wandering off, and they're doing other things. What I will do is go ahead and stage an area, a closet. This works really well if it's just small projects like a desk or a closet, or sometimes a kitchen, if it's not like too complicated, but like a smaller kitchen. I will go ahead and stage it, and then I will bring the client in and say, okay, this is the way I would have set it up and organized it. What do you think? And sometimes they kind of need to be in that space to make those decisions. So, for example, I have a client right now, and I'm working with her paperwork. And I know if I, ask her about every sheet of paper, she will get overwhelmed and just shut down. I don't know. I don't know what to do. However, if I go in and I sort first, and I'll say, okay, here's a stack of magazines, you can throw these out. Here's a stack of catalogs, you can throw these out. Here's junk mail, you can throw that out. Here's a little stack of bills that, we should look at. And she'll go, okay. And then I just throw out the things that she, gave me permission to throw out. So, you can, don't throw anything out without their permission, of course, but you can stage it and say, these are the things, if you only kept this sampling of things, I could organize it in this way, see, and then it'll just be easier for them to, go through it kind of after the fact a little bit, and see what, how it looks. So you can always try that approach with a smaller section, like a little closet or something, and see if that works. Okay, so Gail's having trouble coming up with a company name. What do you recommend to do? I don't know, Gail, if you saw, I did a whole video on this, coming up with your business name, and there's also a blog version of it on my website. And there's a couple of little exercises. Of course, I'm not going to be able to remember them here, but I would definitely check that out. It's like there's kind of different ways that people come up with their name. Like my company is called Space Matters, so that's like a play on words. Like, does your space matter? How does your space matter? And I use that in my tagline. So that's a play on words. Some people do use their own name or last name in their company or their location. And I think that's fine as long as you don't have plans to expand your business by, having a larger team or multiple locations. You definitely want to check to see if someone else is using the name. I think that's what I've heard as some of the complaints that people have had is they're kind of in a vacuum, and they just come up with a name and they love it. And then they create a website, and they go out and do these things, and then they realize, oh, there's like 20 people that have that name. That may or may not be a legal issue. It depends on what trademarks are owned and not owned. I do also talk about that in that video. Yeah, but I would kind of brainstorm about it. Don't let it slow you down too much. I used to always kind of promote like my logo and my company name, and then a few years ago, probably if you asked all of my clients, I would say probably 30 to 40% of them don't even know my company name. They just know me. I mean, they always write the check to my company name, but sometimes people will say, oh, it's Space Makers, right? Or, when they're referring me to a friend, they're just like, oh, just call Katherine, she knows this and that. So, it's important, and it's certainly something that's going to be part of that initial process of setting your business up, but, don't stress about it too much, because it may be that people are just identifying you and your personal brand. Let's see. Danielle says, I had my first client a while ago, I charged her by the hour, but I think I should have charged a flat rate for the project. Which strategy do you think is best so I don't underestimate myself? Um, I like doing session pricing based on, it's based on an hourly rate. I just don't charge by the hour because, um, when I go to someone's home to work, well, first I need a few hours to actually accomplish anything. But something that happened to me really early on was I didn't specifically tell people it was a session rate, and I would say, okay, this is my hourly rate. And I would show up planning to work for 3 hours or 6 hours, and someone would say, oh, well, I have to go. So what can you do in an hour? I'm just going to pay you for an hour. So after that happened to me, this was the first, couple of months in business. But after that happened to me, I said, no, no, no. I charge by the session. If I'm there, this is what I expect to get paid, because it's not like I could, if I drive, commute to someone's house, which for me usually takes about half an hour. Once I get there, if they say, oh, I'm only gonna pay you for 45 minutes or something, it's like that's not gonna work out for me, and I'm not gonna be able to keep my business open. So I do the session rate. Um, I would be very concerned about a flat rate for a project. And that is because there are so many unpredictable factors when working as a home organizer. So some of the factors are, the decision making ability of your client. If you go into a space, it's probably going to be pretty cluttered, and it's rarely for me it's been rarely, like, I could almost count, like, on my hands, like the number of jobs that have been extremely straightforward where we didn't have to do decluttering. So for me, I always really need to take my clients through a decluttering process, because things are just not going to fit. It's not as straightforward as just going in with like 7 shoe boxes and a pack of hangers and just like making a closet look beautiful. That's really rare. What I have found is that it's more that there is too much stuff to fit into the closet or the bookshelf or the kitchen cabinets in order for those spaces to really function. So I always take my clients through a decluttering process first, and you really cannot put a timeline on that, because you could have a client who says, okay, just, I don't care, just get rid of what you want, and just, they're really fast at making decisions, and they're like, no, 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 I just want to keep these 5 things, and I don't care about that. You may have that client, but what's more likely is you're going to have someone who's actually going to kind of agonize over what to keep. And I would hate for you to say, okay, it's, for $300 I can do this closet, and then you get in that closet and it's filled with paperwork and photos and knickknacks and clothes that don't fit, and you say, oh my gosh, we're going to have to go through all of this in order for me to set up this nice closet. And then your client sits there and, it takes hours and hours and hours for them to make those decisions. So I don't like doing the flat rate project for, because of that. It's really hard to predict the time. Now, I have gotten to a place, because I've been doing this for a very long time, that I can usually, after a consultation with a client, say, I'm going to need, 2 sessions in your kitchen, and I'm going to need an organizing assistant. So I can give them that. I guess that would be a bit of a cost estimate, but it's more like, I think we're going to need 3 sessions in your home office. I think we're going to need 2 sessions with 2 organizers to complete your kitchen. So I do a lot of pre-screening and consulting with my client first. I may even do a test session where we just go in and do like a 3-hour work session, and I can kind of see if it's going to be a client that makes really quick decisions, or is, passing some of that decision making on to me, or if it's someone who really is agonizing over, they have 400 pens and they want to look at every one of them and think about it, and it takes an hour just to look at pens, so you'll get better at it, but I think every client's a little different, and I would hate for you to say that you can do. I think it also adds a lot of stress for new organizers to say, okay, I can do this in 10 hours. And then you get in there and you're just finding box after box of mystery items that you know you have to go through before you can set up a space, and it can really slow you down. So I would try the session, session rate. That's this, I think, the simplest thing too. And then when you get more experienced, you may get better at kind of pre-screening and estimating some things. But in the beginning, I pretty much recommend that everyone start with kind of a session pricing. So Emily's asking about virtual organizing. How would you suggest structuring a virtual organizing session? So there's you can do what you do in a face-to-face organizing session virtually with someone. So now we have the power of, FaceTime and Zoom and all of these like video, Google Photos for photo sharing. So we have a lot of tools now that people can pay you online and that you can share a lot of visual information. So, don't be limited by not going into someone's home. So there's lots of ways to do it. My personal favorite, and I've said this before on other lives, I mean, this is just for me, probably a little bit more as an introvert and someone who doesn't really want to be on the phone for 3 hours, because I feel like my voice would get a little weak. I've heard of people, staying on the phone with people all day and doing these sessions. But for me personally, where my comfort zone is, I like to do a 1 hour sort of coach call or consultation call. And so during that, if it's my initial call with someone, I like to set up an action plan, and I can do that on Trello. That's one of the courses I teach is action planning with Trello. So that would be a must for me to do virtual organizing, and that's going to be an app that allows us to share information, checklist, resources. I can communicate a lot of information with my client virtually. So we're not just emailing back and forth or texting all day. It's like, here is the plan. Any, resources, courses, products, local donation centers. I'm going to put that all in your Trello board, and we can, communicate that way. So I like to have the digital communication tool. Typically, I'll set that up on the first call, and then our subsequent coaching calls will reference back to that Trello board. So, I'll have some task for my client. Okay, we're going to empty out your clothing closet and donate anything that doesn't fit. Then, you were going to take that clothing to this charity. So I'm creating kind of a checklist for them. And then I'm their accountability partner. So the next time we talk, I say, okay, well, how did that go with your closet? What resources do you need? Where did you get stuck? So it's kind of a coaching session. That's where my comfort zone has landed. If this were not a time of COVID and pandemic, I would prefer to do 100% of my decluttering face to face. It's just where I'm comfortable. But of course, we've had to all pivot with, what's going on in the world. So, and actually it's allowed me to take a few clients that were too far for me to drive. And so we have been able to do some consulting on the phone. So that's nice. I mean, it definitely opens up, it takes away that location, barrier of, working with people that aren't close to you. So if you like it, you could certainly continue it beyond, when we can actually speak with people. There's certainly organizers who built their business around doing the virtual sessions. Yeah, and so if you guys are just joining me, thank you for coming in. This is my live Q&A. I do want to update you guys. My plan right now, which of course is subject to change, but my plan for 2021 is to do live Q&As the first Thursday of the month. So that's what I'm planning on doing now, and then putting out regular content also on Thursdays. But those would be like my scripted videos and my tutorials and all those things. So if you haven't subscribed to my channel, do that, and then hit the little bell. I think that notifies you when new videos are coming out, but they should be on Thursday. And then if you're on my email list, you should get an email. I usually send out Thursday morning to remind you of the live. And then I think some of you guys are probably in my Facebook group as well, which is Organizing for Professionals. And I've tried to be better about like posting a link to let you know that I'm going live. But go ahead and mark your calendar. First Thursday of the month is the plan. Okay, so yes, so Emily was asking about virtual organizing. Nanette says, do you think Google Ads is a wise expense to attract the right client? So, Nanette, my marketing strategies are typically geared towards what I call organic marketing, which means less paid marketing and more like building your like one of the things I do with my website is SEO, search engine optimization, which doesn't really cost anything. You just have to, write content and use keywords to attract people to your website. So I have not paid for that traffic in the way of ads. I think it's probably it would probably work. I have no idea how expensive it is. I typically online marketing is going to be cheaper than hiring like a PR person or an actual ad in a magazine or that type of thing, which I also don't really recommend. For some reason, organizing is it's kind of a hard business, I think, to attract people in sort of print ads. So what I would do first, before your Google ads are make sure that your business is listed and is like Google can find it. So and all of you guys on the call right now can do this. If you go to Google and you type in, find an organizer near and like put in your hometown or your zip code, make sure your business comes up. And so to get your business listed on Google doesn't cost anything. You just need to get in contact with them and get that set up. So I would make sure, one, that your business is listed because that's free. Then I have noticed that the businesses, since I got reviews on my business through Google, it comes up a little bit easier. So make sure your business is listed and then make sure you have reviews because that'll push you up as well. And then I would also just see if other people are advertising. In my market, it's pretty rare that I see an organizing company come up. There's like two right now that are advertising, but my business will still be listed on that first page. And that is because I have the reviews, I have the keywords, and all of that stuff is free. So just make sure you get that set up, and then give it a test and see. And then also I would make sure that when you're driving traffic to your website, that your website is going to get that person to some call to action. So, what do you want them to do? Let's say they find they type in, I need an organizer in, Albuquerque, and your name comes up first because you have that Google ad listed. So you're at the top, they're going to click on that. Is it really clear, what you do? Is your website set up to attract the right audience? And is it really clear what action they should take once they get there? Should they call you? Should they fill out a form to book a consultation? So, yeah, before you put the money down, I would check all of those things and then give it a test. I mean, the nice thing about Facebook ads and Google ads is like you can set a small budget and you can just run it for a limited time. So, see if it works in your area. And again, find out, if there's 10 other people advertising in your area, just take that into consideration. But everyone should be Googling like who the organizers are in their community to just see if they naturally come up in that listing. And there's things you can do for free to get in there. Yeah. Yeah, so Miss Brown, there's always a surprise mystery area or hidden containers with tons of things. Okay, so I call these mystery boxes. This is when you go into a client's home, they're like, oh, what's your organize my closet? And you're like, okay, great. And then you start pulling things out, and it's like, what's in this box? What's in this tub? What's in this tote? What I mean, and you know, you find everything under the sun. So, you know, that is part of the decluttering process. That's, you know, what we are doing as organizers. You know, we're one of those few industries that's actually going to go in there and open that stuff up and pull out those childhood memories and those legal documents and those unpaid bills. Like we're the person who goes in and actually tries to come up with a solution for these things. So yes, sometimes when I do a consultation and I look around and I just in my mind count the number of mystery boxes, and if I can just poke into a few of them and see what it is, but you can't tell. I mean, sometimes they're buried. And you know, sometimes you open a mystery box, there's one thing in it, and that takes you 2 seconds to go through. And sometimes you open a mystery box and it's filled with things that are going to take you 3 hours to go through. So, welcome to the fun world of professional organizing. But yes, there's a lot of unknown when you go into someone's house. Okay, Rebecca, I'm reading your question. Frantic call from a past client needing help to move. They think I'm a genius, but I'm not. NASM, is that the Senior Move Manager Association? You're not certified through NASM, and how do I know how to determine a package price? Okay, so let's break this down a little bit. Helping a client move. Okay, so you don't need to be certified, but the big risk that always pops up into my mind with moving is liability. So, the big liability things that are red flags for me are they going to ask you to pack breakable things, which you may or may not need to move? Are you moving things for them, which I tend like not to do? I think this is too complicated to come up with a package price. I wouldn't even begin to put a set price on it. I would still go with the session pricing, and you know, if let me get some water. You know, if someone called me today and said, you know, I'm frantic, I'm moving, you know, next week. If I was available and had time, I would go and do some decluttering sessions with them. Because with moving, there's sort of two parts of that. You can either pack things into boxes and have people move that out, or you can decide what not to move in a decluttering process, and then that saves that person, you know, time moving. So you can absolutely schedule a decluttering session and help them, you know, get things to charity shops, recycle, that type of thing. So I mean, this is a great time to schedule some decluttering sessions. I would, without that insurance and proper, you know, labor, I would stay away from packing breakable items and moving anything. If they are, sometimes I get these calls and someone's like, you know, I got to move like right now. Um, Honestly, sometimes the fastest thing to do is to just get a professional moving company to come in and pack them, move them, you know, to where they need to be, and then as the organizer, come in and unpack and declutter once they're settled. So, you know, I don't know how much of a time frame you have right now, but my focus would be, let's do some decluttering sessions so you're not paying to move things that you don't need, because that can be expensive. Or if they're just on like a super tight, like they're moving like Monday or something, I would say, you know, get your moving company, you know, people that are insured to pack and move things. Get your things moved to that new location, and then I will come in and help you unpack and set up your new home, and we'll get everything organized on that end. So you kind of have like those two sides, but yeah, no certification needed, but definitely be careful on the liability side. And yeah, I would not. I would stay away from packages on this one. Especially if you're new starting out, I would just charge and try to do as many sessions with them, as you can. You could probably do unlimited session. I mean, as many sessions as you have time to do, and they have the budget to pay you. Um, if someone is moving, you could use all of that time. Yeah, so Nanette says, if you estimate 10 hours, but it only takes 8, do you adjust the invoice? Yeah, see, I wouldn't be doing it that way. I would, again, I would say, okay, it's going to be a couple of sessions. And my sessions are 3 hours, and sometimes I do two. But I would never just leave in the middle of a session and say, okay, I'm going to take some time off of this. I also tend to do whole home organizing, so there's always something to do in that remaining time. So I'm not really giving estimates that say, okay, we're going to do this in 20 hours, and then it only took 10 or 8 and something. So that doesn't really come up for me. Yeah. Um, do you think as a new business I should go into projects with helpers? I did a pantry alone. Yeah. Yeah. You're talking about how your back is killing you. Yeah. So, you guys, professional organizing is really physical. Like, just know that. I try to keep in shape as best I can. I'm not as young as when I started this business, but I have certainly had the aches, the pains. I try to stretch. I try to maintain my weight because I know when I gain weight, it like puts more pressure on my knees, and then I'm kind of achy at the end of the day. So yes, this can be a very physically demanding job. And one of those, Danielle, I don't know if you've watched my video. It was one of my recent ones about decluttering and using the junk hauling service or junk removal companies. Um, Check that out because I do talk about how they can help with some of that. So like one of my tips from there, if I'm doing a big decluttering job, instead of myself walking up and down the stairs and taking things out to my car and carrying the bags of trash and donations and recycle, I just kind of stage everything in that space, and then my haulers come and they kind of deal with it, and they do the up and down the stairs and the lifting and all of that. So check out that video about labor. What I love too about using the hauling company is they are already insured, and I don't have to worry about any of that kind of HR or insurance issues when I bring in my own people. I think adding a second or third organizer to your organizing job. I mean, it's something I've been doing for years and years and years. I used to have a team of employees, and now I use contractors. Yeah, I mean, you should absolutely look into that. Of course, the things you need to watch out for, of course, are kind of the HR concerns, like how are you going to do payroll taxes for people that you're bringing in? It adds an extra liability question, of course. So when I bring in organizers onto the job, my organizers also have liability insurance. So my company, which is an LLC, has liability insurance, and then the person I'm bringing in, they are also insured. So I tend to, well, not tend to, I do, bring in other professionals that have that insurance. So that's something I'm a real stickler about. And then I know how I'm going to pay them with, a 1099. So those are kind of the issues of, make sure you're doing it, the liability and the HR. Aside from that, yeah, like bringing in a second, a third, like building teams to do these organizing projects, I think that's wonderful. I've done it myself. It's great. It makes things go faster. Um, I do recommend that you have a really good system before you bring in another person, because if you are new and you're just kind of winging it and you're doing these things, and then you bring in a second person, what could happen is you're both just standing around, talking to the client or looking at something. You don't want to just have kind of too many cooks in the kitchen, I guess is the cliche. But if you have a system, and as I mentioned earlier, I do that GDP, so I may have my assistant do a sorting, and then I walk the client through a decision making process because I don't want too many people talking to the client because that causes decision fatigue. But then I can have my assistant or the second organizer, create labels and do the put away. So as long as you are really comfortable with your system of how you have to really, when you're bringing in extra people, you really have to have that mindset of a project manager. So that's something that I teach and coach because you just don't want to kind of be winging it. But yeah, it can absolutely, bringing in another organizer can help with physical fatigue and just, you're saying this isn't a pantry. You guys, pantries are really tedious. Like, I like to check all the expiration dates and then, categorize the spices, and like pantries are intense. So it is nice to have that second person. Um, okay, so Rebecca, yeah, I'm staying away from package pricing, but she needs to know how much money to tell her children. So I guess the question is, one, are you doing it by yourself, or are you bringing in a second, a helper? If you're doing it by yourself, I would get a sense of the timeline. It sounds like it's a pretty quick move. So let's say it's like next week, and you think, okay, I looked at my schedule and her budget, and I can do, 6 decluttering sessions prior to her move. So I would just take your session rate, multiply that times 6, and just say, I would like to assist your mother with 6 decluttering sessions, and you're coming up with that based on her space and how much time you think. um, it's going to be different for a 1-bedroom apartment versus a 5-bedroom house. But come up with something that is that you're available to do, and that you think you need to make, to kind of meet her expectations. If it is a downsizing, you have to think, if someone's downsizing from a 5-bedroom house to a 1-bedroom apartment, they probably could do 20 decluttering sessions. I mean, easily, to go through a lifetime of stuff. But if someone's moving from a 2-bedroom apartment to a 1-bedroom apartment, 3 or 4 decluttering sessions could probably cover it. So I would come up with a number of sessions, and then I would say to them, I'd love to get 6 decluttering sessions in with your mother before January 20th. This would be at a rate of, X dollars per session of, whatever, $2,000, whatever it ends up being. And I would tell them the session pricing, so they can, they may come back and say, ooh, we can only budget for 4 sessions with you. So then they can already calculate how much that's going to cost. Or they may say, yeah, that's wonderful. And then maybe you do a couple of those sessions, and they say, hey, can you actually add 3 more? And then you can go ahead and do that. So yeah, I would come up with a number of sessions that fits in the timeline budget and seems reasonable for the amount of clutter that's in the house. And then you can communicate that to them. Sherry says, does Angie's List or similar service work to attract clients? Okay, yeah. So Angie's List, Thumbtack, what are some other ones, guys? The Home Advisors. There's one called Find My Organizer, which is specific for organizers, and it's location based. These all fall under the category, and there's others too. I mean, there's always like new ones coming up. These all fall into the category of lead generation services. I'm not really up to date on like all the different pricing because I know they change it a lot on me. So some of them have, like, I think Thumbtack used to be, it was like a flat rate if they booked, and now, or what you pay based on credits, and so there's different ones, but the gist of it is they're all lead generation generating services, and I know a lot of organizers that have had success with this. So when you're starting your business, I would definitely research, what the different ones are charging with advertising. And I will say, just as a side note, I when I was on the lead generator, I think I'm still on Find My Organizer, but I'm not paying them right now. And I'm still on Thumbtack, but I haven't really been taking any leads. but they're all going to be a little bit different with pricing. And I will tell you that in my community and in my experience, the people that use those referral sources are very much shopping based on price. So for me, because I'm on the higher end of pricing in my market, it's nearly impossible for me to get those jobs because I'm not going to be the lowest priced. Now, you may be on the lower end if this is your first like 5 organizing jobs. You may actually be competitive on pricing. So it may be something that you budget in the beginning when you're starting out your business, and then, ultimately, you find that you don't need it. So just keep that in mind. That's been my experience. And also with closing those leads, I've got to go back and give my pitch for like niche marketing and organic marketing. If I get a call from a potential lead and it's someone has referred me to them, so another organizer, a friend or family member, if they're calling me based on that referral, I mean, it's almost 100% close rate. So when they call me, I'm booking that job. It's very, very high level that I'm booking that job. If I'm going through a lead generation, my close rate is really low, because of they're kind of going on price and they don't really know who I am. So I would absolutely, if I didn't have any clients and I was starting my business tomorrow, maybe in a new market, I would look into investing into lead generating services, because it's possible to go ahead and get those clients in that way. But yeah, I just have found that over time it's harder for me to close those jobs, and also now that my because I'm certified and I've been doing this a long time, my rate's a little bit higher in my market, so I'm not competitive on those sites. So that's why I'm personally not using them. But yes, if I was starting my business in a new market tomorrow and I needed clients, I would go on them. So yeah, it's Angie's List, Home Advisor. Now Yelp is sort of more search engine-y. I do my reviews on Google and not Yelp, just kind of a personal preference. I don't know. Anybody finding leads on Yelp? I'm not sure. I don't usually use a look at reviews on Yelp for home services. If you find that people in your market are doing that, that might be helpful. Okay, Groupon. So I tried Groupon and did get clients from there. Okay, however, be aware that Groupon takes a big cut. Yeah. I did not mind at first because I was happy to be working. Exactly. So, yeah, I mean, if you're looking for those first 5 clients or those first 10 clients, of course, that may be a really good deal, because having a client is that you paid for, or that you're paying a commission on, is certainly better than no clients at all. So yeah, that may be what you need in the beginning to get those leads. Now, what you can do once you get that client from Home Advisor or Thumbtack or Groupon, once you have that person, I would do a couple of things. I would make sure that they give you a Google review, and possibly Facebook review if you're building your business on Facebook. But get a review and a testimonial, even if it's also just something that you have a copy of that you can post in your social media or website. So get a testimonial from them. Also, usually those sites as well will have like a review process. So like let's say you're on Thumbtack and you've worked with a lot of clients on Thumbtacks and you get reviews there, then that will increase your ability to find clients. So each of them will have their review, I guess, process. But for me, I would rather have a Google review or a review that I can put on my website. So get a testimonial review from them that you kind of have ownership of, that's not just sitting out there on Thumbtack, that you can actually use in some of your marketing materials. And then also give that person an incentive to refer you to their friends. So you may have gotten the client on Groupon and maybe you didn't make as much money because of their cut, but now you have that client. So hopefully you have a client that's happy with you. You have a client that could potentially be repeat business. And what I do is I offer an incentive. If my client refers business to me, I give them a gift certificate after that referral has paid. So I will generate my own gift certificate for services and then say, hey, here's $25 or $50 off your next session. So, once, you may have to do whatever you need to do to generate those leads, but once you have those leads, make sure that you're doing your follow up and all the things that you can do organically to get more clients from that. So, you may have only made a couple $100 from a client that you had to pay for, but then if you work that, you may get 3 other clients that you're able to pay, earn your full price and not have to pay other than a referral to, your client in the form of a gift certificate. But then you have those leads that you have moving forward. So definitely something to think about in the beginning. Awesome, guys. Well, thank you so much for joining me. It's really been great. I missed out on a lot of my networking locally. As I mentioned earlier, has been like having coffee with people in my community or going to networking events or luncheons and all of that. And so it's been many, many months since I've done that. I actually belong to a co-working space in my town, and I only go there occasionally after hours. So I'm not having a lot of that social networking that I've had over the years. So it's so wonderful that we do have tools right now like YouTube and Facebook and Instagram and all of that to connect with people. So thank you guys for helping me stay connected as I'm spending more time at home, and keep working on your businesses. So schedule coming up. Next week on my channel, I am doing a review of the Minimalist documentary on Netflix. I believe it's called The Minimalist, Less is Now, hashtag Less is Now. So I'll be telling you guys some key takeaways and some inspirational items from that documentary. And yeah, and then I'll have some other content planned. You guys can submit questions to me at info@myspacematters.com, or you can comment really on any of my videos, because I always look at those comments, and if there's something that we can explore in a live call, we can do that. And also the Facebook group is Organizing for Professionals. And if you guys are not on my email list or my Facebook group, the easiest way to connect with that information is to go to myspacematters.com/guide, and there'll be a link to that in the description of this video. And that is my free guide for launching your organizing business. So you'll get that free guide, and then you'll also be on my list for upcoming updates. So I'm really wishing you guys a very successful and productive 2021, whatever that looks like for you. If that's at home blogging or virtual networking, or coaching your clients by phone, whatever, or working in a mask, as I've done quite a bit now with my mask and gloves and my hand sanitizer and everything. So yeah, good luck to you guys, and I'll talk to you next month.